This review will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, go ahead and watch it before this video to avoid disappointment. And remember, do not spoil future episodes in the comment section or you will live to regret it. The CMCs have their second episode of the season before the halfway point. Will it end up being more like Surf and or Turf, or more like the Showstoppers? Well, there's only one way to find out, by reviewing it and seeing where it stands. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pones N Stuff. Seeing characters act unlike themselves is something that really sets me off on the wrong foot here, because why, on Celestia's amazingly cultured Earth, would the CMCs want to be in the School of Friendship, when, as Twilight correctly states, it's not for them? Sure, they've acted selfishly, with greed and jealousy in their veins before this point, but it at least seemed necessary. Here, it seems entirely pointless. It's almost like the plot needed it to ensure that it got the ball rolling somehow. Is it just a statement of those feelings being a part of the new class and educational structural realignment that hasn't really happened in Ponyville up until this point, until the school came along? Or the fact that these three just want to bunk off and have fun in their eyes instead of actually learning something? I think it's both of the above when you put things into perspective. However, it does mean that this episode started off quite poorly because the CMCs, in my opinion, did not deserve to be in that role. Because if they went with, I don't know, setting up Cozy Glow from the get-go, with all the teachers actually having a role to play, and the CMCs come along and try to help being the people they are, then it actually would have made a little more sense and all the issues we had would not have actually been there. That is just me saying it, I could be entirely wrong, but based on my perception of how it went down, it looks like it would have been a much more bountiful spectacle. The thing is, it started off pretty badly, and I had to hope that the episode could regain my trust. Thankfully, it managed to quite a bit. The clunky first act, despite some negative characterization and slow as molasses pace issues, did manage to give sublime nods of continuity to us along the way. Spike's newly acquired wings, Sugarbelle following up on her breakdown statement, and Chancellor Puddinghead actually having a picture to go along with the visualization we got in Season 2. That, combined with a wonderful reference to Dead Poets Society, ensured that its tonal imbalance wasn't bluntly apparent. Thankfully, the second act gave us the kind-hearted CMCs we expect, as drama and friendship took hold with some lovely montage pieces to complement their stark turn and Cozy Glow's adorable yet oblivious nature. At the same time though, this character had an odd aura about her that I and many others in the fandom just could not shake. That is either foreshadowing of something more sinister to look forward to ahead, or it showed another indecision that the writers couldn't make their mind up on. At least the walking reference to Shirley Temple looked and sounded the damn part. All she needed was a straw hat and a polka dot dress, and she would have been right at damn home. And while it may have started out badly, getting to that final sequence, where the open-ended nature of the CMC's new roles and the confirmation of their long, steady rise to the top of the friendship totem pole was realised with a lot of passion and empathy, meaning that we could all just revel in how far these kids have come, even more so than before, while allowing us to ask a lot of questions but add anticipation to what will come in the future, all while marking Cozy Glow as one to watch with very suspicious interest. The music complemented these fillies' interactions and their montages alongside a variety of locations and transitions to make you feel warm and fuzzy, while adding the occasional dramatic gut punch when required, despite not audibly or visibly carrying itself strong throughout. And while the main characters got their chance to really shine in this narrative, filling the 22-minute runtime to bursting with random bit parts that only served to advance the plot did not help to serve as a story that had worked tooth and nail to re-establish itself. Mrs. Cake, Mike, Bon Bon, Big Mac and Sugar Belle, Pip, and pretty much the entirety of the main six sans Twilight really didn't contribute too much to proceedings, making their appearances not feel heavy enough to warrant their slice of this pie. Twilight, though, well, she managed to hold her position as the stern authority figure that her last few appearances have quantified, while showing her to be a hypocrite of a somewhat high order, once again to stir this episode's pot of discontent, and I will get to that later. Thankfully, Starlight saved the day with some hilarious facial expressions and some bluntly endearing writing that reminded me why the hell I love her even more so than the premiere did. And Kelly Sheridan did a fantastic job voicing it all as well. All of this, while sounding great, does leave me a little perplexed. It's enjoyable at its core, but lacking in major depth when needed. This is mostly down to the aforementioned indecision because, well, it didn't just hit the story and the writing, but also the moral implications as well. The writers, firstly, could not seem to elaborate on which one was the most important to look at, but secondly, they couldn't help in pilfering ones from other episodes instead of thinking up new ones. Messages surrounding how impactful lies are despite good intentions, selflessness over selfishness, and the importance of honesty have all been utilised in different episodes over the years. Secrets and Pies for the first, Secrets of My Excess for the second, and a myriad of Applejack episodes for the third remind me sometimes that a bit of creativity in execution and substance is needed to ensure that the morals of this episode and the future don't feel as tired as they have appeared to be in most recent occasions. Sure, there was an abundance of them, which is never a bad thing, and they fit the main characters and complemented the story, but a sterile delivery ensures they don't hold the power they once had after repeated uses. Twilight also committed a moral faux pas, the one thing I alluded to earlier, by seemingly neglecting the moral of the mystery on the Friendship Express, i.e. not making assumptions until you've got the evidence to prove what those are, to give our petite protagonists a proper pictorial pummeling. Then again, she observed their attitude to the school and made an assumption with good intentions for her student, so maybe it wasn't as negative as first acknowledged, which means I'm now the one at fault. Damn you, Nicole DeBuck, for your writing actually making sense, making my argument null and void. But that being said, I will stand by the other points I've made, as an episode does what it can with good intentions, but leaves me frustrated in equal measure, when an honest opinion will state I have a lot to talk about, but not a lot of substance to bring forward myself. Once again, I find myself on a Pones N Stuff final thoughts, realising that I am quite harsh on an episode that probably isn't that bad. Well, the thing is, I am feeling this way because, like many, this is an episode that proved intriguing, but lacked in almost every area to compensate for poor decision making. Now, I commend the writers and animators for managing to keep this episode afloat following its cumbersome opening 8 minutes, despite the laugh out loud moments to be had, giving us an enjoyable, well-made and heartfelt exercise in growing maturity and selflessness that warmed the soul. However, I'm just disappointed that other areas of the episode failed to capitalise on its miraculous groundwork. Now, sure, the writing, animation, music and messages all have good points to shout about, but I have to stick a very bold asterisk next to all of them. Baffling decisions and a hesitant desire to choose a direction for them to go in meant an episode that had the framework for something special got dogged down by itself. Now, while that could have been crushing for other episodes, the desire to return with something well-intended ensured it kept its head above water and reflected its work with a score that it can be proud of. Now, while it put a smile on my face, introduced a new character of immense intrigue, and gave others room to shine, it was not as bountiful as I expected it to be, but it did what it needed to do. This is an episode that is below average by only the smallest of margins, but for me, if they had their heads screwed on from the beginning, it would be looking at something much more plentiful. Then again, I really shouldn't complain. This was alright. It was not bad at all. It's acceptable. It's okay. Then again, given most of the episodes I reviewed thus far this season, it may have to be careful about counting its chickens before they truly hatch. Overall, Marks for Effort scored a total of 12 out of 25, which is a C-. In closing, this is an episode that leaves me as baffled and excited as one that's nearly average could be. I mean, sure, the first act did ruin the potential for the whole episode to snowball into something quite wonderful. Even though it managed to repair itself, it does leave me pretty happy. I mean, what's going to happen with the CMCs going forward? What's going to happen with Cozy Glow? And honestly, I just want to see more of Starlight Glimmer being a guidance counselor, because that was amazing. However, I have to say, it took a lot of effort to be at a point in this episode where I was actually smiling from ear to ear, and I'm just happy it managed to do that, even though the repercussions of said damage are still visible for all to see. The fact of the matter is, we get to the mid-season finale next week, hoping that the goods can still be supplied, albeit in more plentiful ways. And knowing what I know about that episode, it should do all of that and more. We'll have to wait and see next Wednesday for another review to see whether that comes to pass. I have been Freddie Thomas, you've been people watching this has been another edition of Pones N Stuff for the CC Network, and I will see you all next time.